So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's GRIZZ. Today we're going to be talking about Blood of the Dead. We got some deep information, very deep. And this is post DLC 5. I'm a little confused on where the Origins crew in Black Ops 3 lies. I think they're going to be used later in the storyline. So we're gonna beat around that, alright? Drop a like on today's video if you go on to enjoy, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments section if you're new, and if anything here sparks an idea with storyline, hit me up over on Twitter at Viollent. It's the best place to keep talking zombies, multiplayer, and the upcoming Battle Royale for Black Ops 4. Where this conversation begins today is the return to Alcatraz. All of you guys seen that in the trailer. I'm not going to cover the trailer verbatim because we got a lot of jumping around to do. First thing I want to tell you is that the souls of the new crew that's in Mob of the Dead here is not the old Mob of the Dead crew that we knew and loved. This is another crew. This is the Premise crew from Revelations. And after the sequence that we saw in Revelations of the cycle continuing and being completed, what happened is they spawned into the Mob of the Dead scenario after that. And you're going to wonder, well, what about that very end cutscene where we saw them with the stabs and everything? That's a different time period. That's a whole different scenario. That's not the same scene. And I know a lot of us were confused about that, but I'm here to shed some light on this. Because what happens after Revelations, the blood vials saves them, they spawn into the blackness and the dark. Still confused as to what just happened, but the thing is, the game has changed. The chronorium has changed. There are different sequences of events based on what they just did. We know that from the radio logs that an older Stanley Ferguson told the story of what happened in real life. He lived to tell the tale of the murder of Al Arlington and the execution of Billy, Sal, and Finn O'Leary. This is documented not only in the radio logs, but also in the chronorium itself, which I believe that all of the loading screens that we see will be a part of that. Looking in on the new Mob of the Dead loading screen, we see something interesting happening here with these two characters. It's very possible you could say this is the younger Richtofen and the older Richtofen. However, the younger Richtofen was still in bed when he was handed the blood vials. This looks like possibly a handshake going down, meaning that there's some sort of deal happening. If this is in fact Al Arlington and Stanley Ferguson, some sort of deal was made between them ahead of time. Could that deal have been breaking the portal at this moment in time in Blood of the Dead? That is a question I ask you. Let me know in the comment section below if you think this deal had something to do with Brutus being conscious, because you know he can speak, about that portal. So what I'm going to do now is explain three different Richtofens to you. We have a Master Richtofen under Alcatraz, a zombie Richtofen that gives him the blood of the Victus crew. Then we have them going into stasis devices right before our Black Ops 3 crew shows up, the Premise crew, looking for answers, and they get blood vials for all of the characters, where Richtofen already had his blood vials. Richtofen's blood vials come from Sal and Finn, and these other blood vials come from the Victus crew. This is a different situation than we see in Blood of the Dead, that trailer. That comes after this. Now, I don't know exactly how long, but I do question this scene here in the comic. It shows him giving those blood vials that they got from Victus to another Richtofen. I believe this is the Richtofen from Black Ops 3 Origins. He will be used at a later time. He does not have Sal and Finn's blood vials. Alright, I'm going to pound that into your head right now. The blood vials this Richtofen has is from the Victus crew, straight from the comic. And I think that's the importance of the Black Ops 3 Origins Richtofen in particular. Now, I know you guys know about Afterlife and Mob of the Dead. My man Greg FPS in particular would know all about this. Shout out to you, Greg. But Afterlife, I believe, isn't coming back in Blood of the Dead. I say that in the sense that they don't have their souls. Their souls are trapped in the house. And if you played Black Ops 3, you know this. So they will not have an afterlife. What I think will be the alternative is, because we know in this map, and the maps that we're going to have with the Ether storyline, we're not going to have perk vapors. We're going to have perk machines. So it would make sense if their souls are trapped in the house that we're going to be left with quick revive. That would make the most sense, right? So we already defined three Richtofens. We got the Master Richtofen, who's pulling all the strings under Alcatraz. We have the Zombie Richtofen, who I believe's loop is now closed following the events of handing over the blood vials in Victus. I don't believe he's going to be playing another role in the future. I could be wrong, but he was part of the three I talked about, right? And the last one is the Premise Richtofen from Revelations. So those are the three that we know of. There's two more, actually. And the one that I talked about earlier was the one that I believe is in the bed, the Origins Richtofen from DLC 5. I think he will absolutely play a role in the future. And then the upcoming 5 map that's going to feature the Ultimus Richthofen. I believe we have 5 Richthofens at play, but this is where the next 5 minutes of this video blows your mind. Absolutely blows your mind. October 12th, 1945. It takes us back to GRIZZ. There is an event here that does not need to take place, and I believe that is the catalyst for Black Ops 4 Zombies. They need to stop the events of GRIZZ because that will stop Dr. Maxis, who has taken form in 2 forms. He's taken a form that Richthofen can trust, which is Dr. Monty, who he believes is Dr. Maxis. And then we have the Shadow Man, who is the corrupted version of Monty. So Dr. Maxis has taken a few forms. He has a perfected form of Dr. Monty, and he also has a trapped form that is trapped in the crazy place at the same time that GRIZZ was happening, okay? So he did die on the moon. When Dr. Maxis told Samantha to kill them all, he's referring to all the defectors on the moon of Group 935, and Samantha does. But before that, he gets shot in the head, and as you know, the rat that died next to the MPD filled its soul up, and what happened to Maxis? The MPD was full, so he transcended into technology. But what actually occurred is he transcended into the crazy place, where he needed to be freed. So the entire sequence of the event happening from Moon into Black Ops 2, it all comes back to Origins. Forget about all the rest of the Black Ops 2 storyline that you know. The only little bit that matters is the remastered version that's in the comic. The old stuff doesn't matter that happened in Black Ops 2. Go straight from Moon, straight to Origins, to the sequence where Maxis is trapped in the crazy place, needs to be freed with our help so Samantha can join him, and that's what opens up the portal in France. But what happens to Dr. Maxis when he becomes part of the ether? When he becomes part of the house, the safe place? He becomes corrupted by the summoning key, who we know is basically the devil and the god on your right and left shoulders. They play different scenarios. He was convinced by the devil form, which is the Shadow Man, to come free him, which he took on the entity of the Shadow Man, becoming Dr. Monty. So he is essentially the same person. Now, in order to stop this, we have to break the cycle. So let's entertain the idea of the mottos of these games. In Black Ops 3, what was the motto? Only the cursed survived. The outcome of Revelations, they were drinking the blood vials. The cycle continues and is completed. They survived. We move to Black Ops 4 now, and we got a whole nother motto. Mankind's reckoning will be its salvation. Hear my words. Mankind's reckoning will be its salvation. In order to get salvation, mankind has to fall. If we stop the events that happen at GRIZZ, we actually stop the events that will happen with completing the cycle. We will open up a new avenue to break that cycle, which all of our heroes in the Ether storyline have to die. It even says it on the map that Richthofen had. I must find a way to convince the others that we all must die. This means something very significant, and we wondered all through Black Ops 3 what it meant, and I believe we finally have an answer. Mankind's reckoning will be its salvation. We will be able to break the cycle, defeat Dr. Monty, who I believe is Dr. Maxis, by stopping the events that happen on GRIZZ. By the way, the events of GRIZZ teleported Dr. Maxis to the moon. Just throwing that in there as an FYI note. We will stop Dr. Maxis from teleporting to the moon when him and Samantha and Fluffy the Hellhound get all put into a teleporter, and Richthofen, our Ultimus Richthofen, sends them off, and they actually end up on the moon. Samantha trips up into the MPD. Boom, shaka, bang. But where we are right now is stuck on Alcatraz Island in Blood of the Dead. Our teleporter's been destroyed, and now we have to solve an Easter egg, which I believe might be called Awaken the Test Subjects, because that was rumored all through Black Ops 3 as well. And we're going to awaken the Victus crew, who are the test subjects, and hopefully they will lead us in the right direction. We know that the London map has been teased through the newspapers in Horizon Drac. There's a lot more to come and a lot more to study in on. So if you have any questions that you'd like to hear me answer, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll try to tackle that in my next storyline video. I hope you guys did enjoy and you could take a lot away from this, especially if you're confused coming from DLC 5 into this Blood of the Dead cutscene. I hope I cleared some of the comic questions up, and I'd like to continue this conversation with you guys as we move forward to Black Ops 4's release date on October 12th, which ironically is one day before the GRIZZ events on October 13th, 1945. So there is significance behind this, man. One day we got to solve this Easter egg to stop those events. I don't know, man. I'm just saying it all is kind of confusing, but it all sort of makes sense. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Viollent out.